When you're a newbie, you have no idea what you're doing and you just do like the easy exercises. You go for the machines that have the little pictures on them and it tells you exactly what to do. And then you sort of move on to the free weights. You get a bit spicy, you get a bit of confidence. And then you move on to the barbells, like the big girl stuff. You start doing squats, you start doing deadlifts, you start doing like the big lifts. And then you start getting a bit ahead of yourself and you go for some ego lifts. So you start banging on plates onto that deadlift bar and just seeing how much stuff you can lift off the ground. It feels so good, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, but it did lead to me getting injured pretty bad. Welcome to Uplifted with Soph, the podcast. I'm Sophie, your host and your gym sister, here to level up with you as we talk about achieving your goals from health and fitness to faith. This podcast is always going to be real and raw so we can grow together and uplift each other along the way. If you enjoyed the episode, please reach out to me on Instagram or YouTube because I really value your feedback and it would mean so much to me if you could share the podcast with a friend and give it up to a 5-star review wherever you're listening so we can build an uplifting community together. Today's episode we're talking about 10 things I wish I knew when I started my fitness journey because I'm telling you, I wasted so much time. It's honestly insane. Like, I'm not even kidding when I say I wasted months. But this podcast is going to help you to not make the same mistakes I did, so you can actually see progress faster than I did, and it'll be better for everyone. So, let's just jump straight into it. The first one, you will never know unless you try. So, if you never go to the gym, you won't know if you enjoy it or not. I know that's quite obvious, but if you go to the gym and you don't enjoy it, then you can try a different form of exercise. There are so many sports or activities out there to choose from. You literally have no excuses, but you won't know that you don't enjoy them unless you actually try. The same goes for when you're in the gym. So if you want to try a new exercise but you're not sure how, go and ask someone and then go and try it because you'll never know if you can do it or not if you don't try. So, something that I wanted to know if I could do was to do a cartwheel. I've not tried in years, so I tried the other day in the gym and I could still do it, which was really surprising to me, to be fair. It was a little bit wobbly, but it's something I want to improve on, so I will keep trying and we shall keep improving. The next one is don't let other people's opinions hold you back. This was a big one for me and probably one of the things that I struggled with most on my fitness journey because I wasn't given much if any support for starting the gym because I was so skinny. Everyone either thought that I would just get even skinnier or become super bulky like the Incredible Hulk. And that's obviously not true because as women, lifting does not make you bulky. That's another thing I'll get into in a minute. But yeah, just don't let other people's opinions hold you back because it did for me for the longest time. There was so much noise and when you let that noise get to you and like prevent you from getting to your goal when you know that you have good intentions, it just drains you. It holds you back for so long and it can really impact the rate of your progress. So don't listen, just don't listen. I mean, sometimes, a lot of the time, if it's people you know who are making these comments, like, it can be out of love, like genuinely they care for you and they don't want you to go injuring yourself. And the thing is, they don't know your mindset. I know, as frustrating as it is, they don't know what's going on in your head. You could be doing it for the best reasons possible. You might be on a mission to become the best and the strongest and the fittest version of yourself, but they might not know that. And a lot of the time it can be so valuable to articulate that to the people who are close to you, who are making these, or who are voicing their negative opinions. And I know it's hard, I've been there, but it takes a lot of trust. So if it's your parents and you have had a past with like mental health issues or eating disorders or something like that, then starting to work out, they might be concerned for you, like genuinely, they love you. So you need to make sure, first of all, that your mindset is in the right place, and then articulate that to them so that they're not scared for you. Another source of negative opinions is people online. And honestly, guys, just ignore the haters. I mean, if you follow me on Instagram and you've seen the comments on some of my posts or my reels, they get bad. They get so bad. You need to have such thick skin to create the kind of content I do. Because if I didn't, I don't know where I'd be right now. I would not be here. Honestly, some of the stuff, and like, yeah, I'm just not going to go into it. There are like different levels of comments. Some of them are okay, they're bad, but they're not, like, it's just sort of neutral. It's kind of like the bullies in primary school who are just like, your hair is a weird color, ginger. And then it gets to like the really disgusting ones, like claiming you have an eating disorder that you've never had, and they know nothing about your life. They literally they know nothing about you. They have one follower, and it's probably themselves with a different account, and they're just going trolling loads of different people on the internet. It really says more about them than it does about you, honestly. If any successful people don't have the time to be commenting negative stuff on other people's posts, I mean, you've got to be in a really bad place to go out of your way to put someone else down. I just don't understand. But sadly, it's a reality. And if you are facing comments like that, then and you're struggling with it, then feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, because I'd be happy to chat with you about it, because it really can take a toll on your mental health if you don't have that thick skin. And thankfully I do, and I literally laugh off all the comments. If it's really, really, really bad, I'll just delete it, because I also don't want like other people finding and reading comments like that and then that having an impact on their mental health. So it's just the internet is a very weird place, guys. Stay safe, but ultimately don't let other people's opinions hold you back from achieving your goals. I'm gonna take a drink because I'm losing my voice. That felt like the biggest slurp. Okay, next one is doing something is better than doing nothing. So I touched on this in one of my previous episodes, the idea of perfectionism. And a lot of the time that perfectionist mindset can hold us back, because if we feel like we can't give our 100% in our gym session, it can be so tempting to just not go, because it's not going to be a good gym session anyway, so why bother? But the fact is, doing something is better than doing nothing, because all those little somethings are going to add up over time, and that consistency is what leads to massive results. So just don't beat yourself up about that one session not being perfect, or your diet not being perfect, because realistically, if you're doing decent, like your training and your diet is decent 70% of the time, then you're gonna get good results. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. That sort of leads on to the next point, which is avoid the all or nothing mentality, because it can be so tempting. Like, once you ruin your diet and you eat like a donut or something when you said you were going to eat healthy all day, it can be so tempting to just say, stuff it, I'm going to eat the rest of the donuts now, and the pizza, and the ice cream, and that jar of peanut butter that's languishing in the back of the cupboard. But in reality, you've not ruined your diet. You've literally had one donut before you went and had more, because the all or nothing mindset is a problem, and we've got to admit it's a problem before we can do something about it. It's similar with your training. When you feel like you've already fallen off, it can just be so much easier to convince yourself of that and then do other stuff that's gonna actually lead to you falling off further than you originally had. Because one donut isn't gonna do very much, but when you add in like the ice cream, the pizza, the peanut butter, that's when things start to add up, and it could actually make a difference if you keep doing that consistently. And the problem is with the all or nothing mindset is often when you go off track, like dramatically like that, people tend to feel guilty afterwards, and that's when things just start to spiral downwards really quickly. So you can't beat yourself up about it. The best thing that I'd recommend is, if you do find yourself, like, let's keep this example. Say you've eaten the donut, you've eaten the pizza, you've done the whole thing, and then the next day you wake up and you feel so guilty because you've fallen off track so far, or you think you've fallen off track so far. Instead of beating yourself up about it, just do your normal gym session, put those calories to good use and push hard in your session, and then just get on with your day. Like, don't beat yourself up about it, because what's done is done. You can't change the past, but you can continue to go forwards. And realistically, one day of being off track isn't gonna have much of an impact at all in the grand scheme of things. Your fitness journey will be years long. I hope it will anyway. And one day isn't going to make much of a difference. You do need to be mindful if this is happening more frequently, though. It might be a good idea to talk to someone about it, because if you keep doing things like binging all the time, then that will start to add up and you will start to see the consequences of that. But you really just need to be aware that that's what you're doing, and then start taking the steps to get out of that. Because that can be the hardest part, is recognizing the problem. I've been there before. I completely relate. But once you realize that the problem is there, then you can start taking action. And that's the most important part. A good way of summing up the all or nothing mindset is saying something like, you eat all of your fruit and vegetables on a Monday, so you never have to eat any for the rest of the week. Or you do all your stretching on a Monday, so you don't have to do any stretching for the rest of the week. Technically you could, but it's not going to be the best for your health. Like, a little bit of stretching every day is going to go a lot further towards your flexibility and your mobility than just doing one massive stretching session. Another thing you need to remember is that your results won't be linear. I didn't know that when I started my fitness journey. I just sort of assumed that if I kept going to the gym consistently, then I'd keep getting stronger and keep getting results. But realistically, it doesn't work like that. Sadly, I wish it would, but if it did, then we'd all be able to lift like 10 elephants and we'd all look like bodybuilders, right? But sadly, that's not the case, and there will be ups and downs. You'll hit plateaus, you'll get frustrated that you're not seeing progress. You won't see the progress in the mirror that you were hoping you would see, and it's gonna take a lot of time and hard work and consistency to get through those plateaus. But that also helps build character as well, which is really important. I think that's a really not commonly talked about part of your fitness journey, is like the mental side of things that occur, because the amount of confidence I've built since starting the gym is actually insane. I'm a completely different person than I was 2 years ago, and honestly 2 years ago wasn't that long ago. It can get really frustrating if, say, you're trying to lose weight and the number on the scale is just not moving, or it's going up instead of down, and you start to freak out. Then it can play with your head. Honestly, it can play with your head. And I've been the opposite way. I've been trying to gain weight, and some weeks it will be down and I've been eating more than I had the week before, and it really just plays with your head. But you've got to remember, with things like that, bodies are weird, and it could be anything from water retention, less water retention, you might have not been to the bathroom, you know, the usual stuff like that is usually not what we think it is. And when we see results that we don't want to see, our mind can start playing with us. So yeah, you need to give yourself a bit of grace in these situations, honestly, because a lot of the time we tend to beat ourselves up if we don't see the results that we're hoping for. And again, it sort of comes back to perfectionism, because you don't think that you've done good enough at the end of that week, but in reality you've been pushing it hard, and sometimes our results just don't correlate, but over time, in the general trend, we'll be going in the right direction. So you need to look at your progress over the long term instead of just focusing on one day or 1 week's results. That's what's helped me to deal with my results not being linear. But sometimes, don't get me wrong, when you look at the trend over time, there will be like dips downwards, but you really want it to just be consistent. So say for me, I'm gaining weight, so the weight graph currently looks like a bit of a mountain, like not quite a very steep mountain, like not Mount Everest style, but sort of a little bit flatter, and that's good. There are dips downwards, like in the middle, where I've lost weight for some reason. Like I went on holiday to Madeira a month ago, I think now, and I lost weight when I got back because I had been walking a lot more than I had. I think I was doing like 3 times the steps that I usually do, so around 30,000 steps one day. I don't even know how I did it either. So yeah, and I wasn't tracking calories while I was away, but yeah, because of that I did lose a fair bit of weight, to be fair, and it wasn't ideal. So there's like a downwards dip in that graph, but over time I gained that weight back. I got back on track. I kept doing my workouts, I kept eating more, kept bulking, as has been the story of my life for the last 2 years, but you know, and the trend keeps increasing, and that's what we want. That's the progress, because as we build muscle, the weight on the scale is going to increase, and that's the goal, right? So the thing is, just don't be disheartened when you see those plateaus in your results, because it's completely normal and it's all part of the journey. The next one is, if you want to build muscle, you have to be eating enough. I can't emphasize enough how important this is, because if you're not eating enough, then you're not going to grow. Your body needs food to use as fuel, to fuel your workouts, so you can push hard in your workouts, so that you can get that adaptive stimulus in your muscles so that they actually grow. And on top of that, you need to be eating enough protein, because protein is the building block that allows your muscles to grow. And if you're just not doing that, then you're not going to grow, like full stop. You're just not. So I underestimated the amount of food that I needed to eat to actually grow, when I started my fitness journey. I just wasn't eating enough, and I thought I was eating a lot, but in reality I wasn't actually tracking, which was my first mistake. I made many mistakes, as you can tell. But I wasn't tracking, so I was under eating. So what I thought was a lot of volume, a lot of food, wasn't actually enough to fuel my body to allow it to grow. So that meant that I didn't see any progress. I saw like a teeny tiny bit of progress because I was eating a lot, but everyone's different, and my body just needed more because I must have a very fast metabolism. Literally, I eat a lot more than the average woman and I still don't grow very quickly. But we're all different. We are all so different, and that is amazing. Saying that, one person is not gonna need the same amount of calories as the next person because we're all different, and that's where having a coach really helps, because they can see what you can't, and they can help you push that a little bit further because they know that people are different, and you might need more calories than the next person, or you might need fewer calories than someone else to grow, because we're just all unique and we're all different, and all of our bodies are different, and that's awesome. Like, if we were all the same, wouldn't that just be boring? Let's be real, that would be boring. But yeah, you need to be eating enough to grow. You need to be lifting heavy and eating enough if you want to grow. Okay? You got it? Next point. Lifting heavy will not make you look bulky. This is such a common misconception, and I honestly don't know where it came from, but I've been told not to lift heavy because I'll end up looking bulky, and for women, this is not true. For guys, this isn't true either, really. But you've seen bodybuilders, right? Do you know how hard they have to train and eat and like their whole lifestyle to look the way they do? It's really hard. Like, you don't get that jacked by accident. There's no way you can do that. It takes consistency and lifting super heavy and with intention, like focusing on the right muscle groups, mind muscle connection, all the fancy stuff, right? And it takes years. You're not just gonna accidentally get bulky overnight. And even if you do end up starting to build more muscle than you wanted, which is going to be extremely unlikely because it's super hard to do, you can always just strip back your training a little bit and it's fine, right? You can't really make any mistakes, and there are no negative side effects to building muscle. Like, it's going to be beneficial throughout your whole life, especially as you age and everyone around you starts getting more frail. The more muscle you have, the more prepared you're going to be later in life. Because when you have more muscle mass at an older age, then you're going to be less likely to injure yourself from falls and things like that. And on top of that, I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, and they said that exercise and regular activity actually impacts the size of your hippocampus, which is a part of your brain that is to do with memories and stuff, and it's also the part of your brain that gets impacted by health conditions such as dementia. But if you're regularly exercising throughout your life, then that hippocampus is going to be strengthened almost, sort of like that, and you're so much less likely to suffer from dementia later in life. I think I can't remember the exact statistics, but it was something like women later in life who had been exercising ended up having 9 years more like dementia free than the women who hadn't been exercising. So the fact that doing regular activity now can have such a massive impact, not just on like your physical health later on, but also helping you to still remember things later in life, is actually insane. There are people in my family who do suffer from dementia, and it's really sad. Like, people forget their children's names, and Thankfully, not my parents just now, but imagining that, it would just be weird. Like, you might have had family members who have suffered with dementia, and it's really sad. But if you work on just doing regular activity, it doesn't have to be resistance training, just getting outside and staying active, then that can dramatically decrease your chance of developing dementia and conditions like that early on. Another point I just want to emphasize when we're talking about lifting is your form is so much more important than the weight you're lifting, especially when you start, because I got injured really bad. Well, not really bad. I got injured when I was sort of in my ego lifting phase, because we all go through different phases when we start the gym. I feel like first, when you're a newbie, you have no idea what you're doing and you just do like the easy exercises. You go for the machines that have the little pictures on them and then tells you exactly what to do. And then you sort of move on to the free weights. You get a bit spicy, you get a bit of confidence and start doing some stuff with dumbbells. And then you move on to the barbells, like the big girl stuff. You start doing squats, you start doing deadlifts, you start doing like the big lifts. And then you start getting a bit ahead of yourself. You start gaining a bit of confidence and you go for some ego lifts. So you start banging on plates onto that deadlift bar and just seeing how much stuff you can lift off the ground. It feels so good, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, but it did lead to me getting injured pretty bad. So I tried to lift more as a deadlift than I should have early on. My form wasn't great, and also I think different lifts are suited to different people, like the way different people are built. I personally don't think I'm built for deadlifts. I could be wrong, my form could just be really bad, but I've got very long limbs so it's quite a long way down the floor. But yeah, when I injured my lower back, I could literally barely walk. It was so bad. And I had to walk down the hill 15 minutes usually to get to lectures. And when I'd hurt my back, it took me, I don't know, more than half an hour. So more than double the time than it would usually take me. I was just in constant pain. Like, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't walk, I couldn't breathe without it hurting. And I couldn't work out as effectively as I wanted to, obviously, because I was injured. And that's the thing. When you prioritize form, it really decreases your chance of getting injured. And that is gonna keep you flourishing in the gym for longer. So you'll be able to stay consistent because you won't be as injured as easily. But training with injuries is very hard, trust me. I think I've injured pretty much every part of my body and then kept going to the gym because I just didn't want to not go to the gym. I just love it so much. So if you want an episode on training with injuries, let me know, because your girl knows a bit about that. Not that I made the best decisions doing that early on, because I still went to the gym with my back injury and it honestly dragged out the injury longer than it should have. So don't do that. But I can talk a bit more about the injury side of things if you'd find that helpful. But saying that, the next tip is don't skip rest days. Guys, if you currently train 7 days a week, please take a rest day. I used to train every single day, and I had the mindset that training more would equal more results, because that's just logical, right? But it doesn't work like that, and it took me so long to realise, and it just wasn't good. But when I started taking 2 rest days a week, so instead of training every single day, I would train 5 days a week and have 2 rest days, my progress sped up. Like, it pretty much doubled. My progress sped up so quickly just from adding 2 rest days, and it was so counterintuitive because I thought more was better, but my body really needed that time to rest and recover like from all the damage I was doing to it in the gym. And it made a whole lot of difference. It made the world of difference. What people don't tell you is that you don't actually build muscle when you're in the gym. Especially as beginners, it can be really, like, you don't quite get that when you start at the gym. At least I didn't. And when I finally did some research and found out that you're actually tearing your muscles down in the gym, and then it's the time that you're resting and recovering and sleeping and eating in between where your muscles are actually growing, then I was like, oh, okay, I should probably take some rest days now. And guess what? I grew. I actually built muscle and gained strength faster than ever before. So if you're not taking rest days, go take a rest day. Give yourself a break and see how much more progress you can make. Another thing that I never used to do was take deload weeks. It's similar to rest days, but it's not a rest day. So how I approach my deload weeks is I train with the same workouts, but I use a lighter weight and train with about 60% intensity. So the workout's not as intense as usual. I'm not training to failure. I'm training at least 3 reps shy of failure, sometimes more than that. Sorry, let me grab a drink. But yeah, the idea of deload weeks is that over time, you're building up stress on your body. So there are 3 systems that you're building stress on: your muscular system, your skeletal system, and then your central nervous system. And the stress that builds up over your workouts accumulates on all 3 of these systems. So you need to give your body that extra bit of break, just to reset itself, so that you can get out of any plateaus that you might have come across and just be able to progress more again. I'm saying that because right now I am in the middle of a deload week, and it's been so beneficial. It's also a good mental break. I'm gonna be honest, because pushing hard in the gym, if you're really going for it, like every session, it can start to take a toll like on your energy and your motivation. And just having that deload week where you know you're deliberately not pushing to failure and just taking it a bit easy just gives you a nice mental break. I'm gonna be honest. And it makes you so much more excited to go hit the gym again, like full on the next week. Some people also do deload weeks, as in they just take out a few workouts and don't push as hard, or they do more active stuff outside and just don't go to the gym at all. And it just really depends on the person and how you want to approach your deload week. So you do have options, but that's personally, I just love the gym, so I will be there doing my workouts, just not as intense. Okay, the next one is super important because what works for one person might not work for you. I know you might have heard it before, but it's so true, because one person might love going to the gym. Like, I love going to the gym, but you might hate going to the gym. You might find it super overwhelming and just like, no, it's not for you. And that's completely fine. That's completely fine. There are so many other activities out there, but the thing you need to do is just try them all. Just try them all. That goes back to the first point, where if you don't, you'll never know if you don't try. So try cycling, try swimming, try running, try surfing, try something exciting. Let me know what the most exciting activity is that you want to try. Put it in the comments, because I want some inspiration. I tried Pilates the other day, but I didn't. I tried fake Pilates on the rowing machine. It was actually quite fun. I'd quite like to try Pilates. I don't know if I'm a Pilates girly. I'm definitely more of a gym girly. But still, I think it'd be fun to try. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but there's just so much conflicting information out there. For different things are going to work for different people. So one diet that works for one person might not work for someone else. Like if you tried keto, if you tried low carb and you absolutely loved it and that helped you like reach your goal, then that's awesome. But that might not work for someone else. Someone else might find better results from just eating a balanced diet. And personally, that's what's worked best for me. Having all of my macros, getting all of my micronutrients has just been the best for me. And that's what I'd recommend to everyone, to be fair. But especially when it comes to weight loss, then there are different diets that people find easier to stick to. The only thing is with these diets is when you go into them, you need to have a proper plan in place for how you're going to come out of them. Because say you went for a low carb diet or a keto diet, if you don't have a solid plan in place for getting out of that, then chances are, as soon as you have a bagel, then you're going to want a whole bag of bagels or a bowl of cereal. You're going to want to finish the whole box, because once you've had a taste of a carb, you're going to need a plan. You're going to need a plan, because if you don't, then who knows what's going to happen. I actually had a low carb diet for years, to be honest. Yeah, probably years. And I didn't have a plan of coming out of it, because I was quite happy on a low carb diet. I felt like I wasn't missing out really. And the reason I started it in the first place was because I was just feeling like, what's the word? I felt that I wasn't having as much energy when I was having carbs, but I had more energy when I wasn't. So that's the reason that I did it. And then obviously all of social media was sort of backing up the idea that carbs were bad, and I was like, oh, that's fine, I don't need them anyway. So I did that for ages, and then I got a coach, and she was like, you should probably have some more carbs, because it's going to fuel your workouts and you're going to perform a lot better and see better results. And I added more carbs, and guess what? I got better results. So please, if you're cutting out carbs, know that they're not going to make you gain fat. They're actually very helpful and will give you the energy you need to push hard in your workouts and get better results. But anyway, tangent. When I was coming out of my low carb diet, I hadn't gone into it with a plan, like an exit plan, but because I am a qualified coach, I sort of knew how to come out of it. So what I did was I gradually added more carbs back into my diet. Like, I didn't go for a full-on, let's just go back to normal amount of carbs. Like, I don't know, I'm eating like 300, maybe more than that, grams a day now. 370, I don't know, I'm bulking. But anyway, I slowly added in more carbs over time, and that was the best way for me to do it. Like, I was tracking, so it was very measured. And for anyone coming out of a certain diet that you might have been on for a while, I definitely recommend tracking your calories and your macros, because it will make your life a whole lot easier and probably a whole lot less stressful as well, just so that you know that you're still getting the right amount of calories, and you have a bit of security to it, if you know what I mean. Saying that though, tracking is not for everyone. I know it can stress people out and I feel like when you start tracking, it can be a bit of a pain, because it takes up a little bit more time than just like grabbing a bowl of cereal, just throwing it in. But honestly, I've been tracking consistently for most of the year now, and you just get used to it. Like, it just becomes part of your lifestyle. For me, it kind of had to become part of my lifestyle though, because I'm training to compete in bodybuilding, and you know how intricate things get later on in prep. Oops. I just leant on my desk and I thought I was going to break it. Anyway, one of the most important things I learned, or the mistakes I made, is you need to put your health first. Because if you're not putting your health first, then nothing else is going to work. There are no quick fixes. As much as I love a quick fix, as much as the next person, you're not going to build muscle overnight. You're not going to lose 10 pounds overnight if you're aiming to lose weight. You need to focus on the little steps that are going to get you to your big overarching goal. So instead of looking at it like, I need to build 10 pounds of muscle, start by thinking that you need to build 1 pound of muscle, and then do that 10 times. Or if you need to lose 10 pounds of fat, lose 1 pound of fat, then do that 10 times. Because breaking down the big goal into smaller, more simple and achievable chunks will do so much for the mental side of things as well. And I love making short-term goals and like writing a list and then just ticking them off. It's so satisfying. And it will help you like have more motivation and dedication to stick to those goals as well, because you're having more frequent, like, what's the word? Rewards. Yeah? Rewards? You're rewarding yourself more frequently because you're achieving those smaller goals. And that is so encouraging to see. It helps you track your progress a lot easier than having this one massive goal that just seems so unachievable right now. I used to do running, and I wanted to run 5k. I didn't have much stamina when I started out, but after a few weeks I gradually built up the distance I was running, and then eventually I could run 5k. But I didn't go straight into that because, actually no, I did go straight into that, and I couldn't run 5k. I could run like 3k with walking, and I was just out of breath, and it was a state. I'm not even gonna lie, it was a state. And I regrouped and started adding a little bit more each week. So not even a full k, not even a full kilometer. I started with 1k, right? And then the next week I tried 1.5k. That was alright. Then I tried 2k. That was alright as well. Then I tried 2.5k, that was not alright, so I did some walking in there. So the next week I tried to do 2.5k again, but then added more running than walking, and I just sort of built it up from there. And ticking off those goals played a big role in helping me to stay motivated towards that bigger goal of being able to run 5k. And then after that I actually did races and did pretty well in the races as well. In cross country, I have not run for so long, you guys. But that is because I'm bulking and I can't really. I'd have to eat so much more if I was burning more calories. So I prefer to keep the cardio low for now. It's all fun and games. The main takeaway that I have currently got from my 2 years of experience on my fitness journey is that consistency is better than perfection, because you could have a perfect workout every single day, but eventually that's not going to be sustainable, and it'll just lead to burnout if you're trying to have the perfect workout every single session. It's not having the perfect workout that makes the difference. It's staying consistent with, you could even stay consistent with a below average workout, and over time you still get amazing results, because the little wins build up over time and they can make a massive impact. So if you take one thing away from this podcast, it is just stay consistent, and over time you will reach your goals. Even if you have plateaus, that's fine, just get back on track, don't beat yourself up about it, and if you stay consistent then you will achieve your goal. I can be 100% sure of that because it's happened to me. If I'd quit after the first week of going to the gym because I wasn't seeing the results I wanted, then I would not be the person I am today. In terms of muscle gain, strength gain, or confidence, I wouldn't be able to do this podcast because I would not have the confidence. And really, prioritizing your health and fitness will go so much further than you realize. It's just taking the initiative and taking the action to stay consistent and make the change in the first place that has to happen. But I'd really like to know, how long have you been on your fitness journey? Let me know in the comments and let's uplift each other, because it is so inspiring to see other people who are also going on that journey with you. Because a lot of the time your fitness journey can feel quite lonely. You feel like you're the only person who's going towards this goal and you don't have anyone else going through the same things you are. So I'd really appreciate it if you did comment how long you've been on your fitness journey, so that we can build each other up. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you more than you know, and if you enjoyed the episode, please give it a rating or a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening, because it will really go a long way in helping this podcast reach the people who need to hear it. And we can build an amazing, uplifting community together. I know I've said it before, but it's so true. This is an awesome community that we're building, and I love that you've decided to become a part of it. It just makes my day. And I'll see you in the next one.